hermetically sealed mayonnaise jar to collect the order of our candidates. And the first vice chair candidate to speak to us today is Don Guyman.
So, thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate Linda and the Weber County Party for putting this together. I've known Linda for a number of years. I remember working, I think met her when we were volunteering for the Mike Lee campaign back in the day. I'm Don Guyman. I'm candidate for vice chair. And I'm running for this position, I think, for three reasons. I think the three reasons that make me the most qualified for this position. First is my support for the caucus and convention system. In 2013, I sponsored the resolution before the State Central Committee, which we vowed to defend our caucus convention system with all means necessary, including legal action. I'll say that resolution passed with only one vote against. So the State Central Committee has long been on record for supporting legal action, because I believe this challenge with SB 54 is very important. Rights once lost aren't easily won back, and my concern always is if government can tell us how to choose our candidates, what else can they tell us to do? I'm also practical enough to realize our legal challenge may not be successful. So in Davis County, I sponsored 2 bylaw changes which encourages caucus participation by candidates through allowing endorsements of candidates if people don't receive a certain level, and also through material assistance, setting levels a candidate has to receive material assistance in the November elections. Those are things I'd like to implement at the state level in the event our lawsuit is not successful. So number 2 reason is my experience helping grassroots Republicans. I've served for over 18 years in the party. I was first elected from Davis County to represent them on the State Central Committee back in 1999, and I've been elected every 2 years since then. In Davis County, every chairperson has asked me to serve since 2001. I've either been a chair or a member of a committee. Amongst the things I've served on in Davis County, I've been a ledge chair, I've been a Constitution and Bylaws chair, rules chair, elections chair, and education chair. On the state level, right now I'm finishing up my second term on representing the 2nd Congressional District on the State Executive Committee. Prior service on the state level involves, I was Vice Chair of the Constitution and Bylaws Committee, a member of the Audit Committee, and 3 different chairmen asked me to serve on the Rules Committee. But in my service, I've always sought to put the needs of grassroots Republicans first. For example, back when I was a member of the Constitution and Bylaws Committee, a proposal came forth to not allow state delegates to amend our party's governing rules. Basically, the State Central Committee could do it, but they said, hey, the State's Convention, you can't. I didn't think that was fair, because I've always been an advocate for state delegates having a voice in the party to be kind of the counterbalance to our Central Committee. I was a lone vote against the committee, but I went to the state floor of the State Convention, and I fought it. And together with state delegates, we were successful. As a ledge chair, I sought to improve our caucus experience. I gave training to precincts, I moved us to larger locations, and this last year I sponsored a rule to empower delegates by allowing precincts to choose their method of election and caucus night, because I recognize we not only need to save the caucus, we need to make the caucus work. There's a lot of improvement that still needs to be done, and I'll continue to do it. The last is my commitment to our principles. We see the left getting very loud and bold, and I've always, we need someone who's willing to take them on. As chairman of grassroots, I've long been a proponent of constitutional limited government, lower taxes, and protecting all of our God-given rights. But also in the party. When I was first a state delegate, back when state leaders were calling for more gun control laws in the state, I sponsored a resolution calling for no more gun control laws. And luckily we passed at the state convention. There was a time when people were calling for our presidential nominee to pick a pro-choice vice president, to have a balance on the ticket. I sponsored a resolution calling for us to only pick a pro-life vice president. So I've taken strong stands. I've taken other stands in the party. I want to serve because, once again, a strong Republican Party committed to its core principles of limited government, lower taxes, and protecting all of our God-given rights is essential to the future of our children. I hope you'll give me, Don Guyman, your vote on Saturday. Thank you.
And the lottery has chosen candidate number 2, Joni Crane. Is Joni with us?
She didn't make it, but if you can check her website, it's jonicrane.com, JONICRANE.com.
Okay, we'll move to candidate number 3, randomly selected, is Natalie Callahan. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm Natalie Callahan. I'm running for vice chair. Really happy to be here. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and then move into my platform. So I am a Republican and a conservative and have a background in campaigns, and also right now I'm a partner owner at a marketing and public relations firm based out of Salt Lake. And we specifically work with government entities and conservative organizations. So a lot of my world revolves around the Republican Party and politics. And want to use my skill set there to make some what I would call needed changes in the party. So I'm campaigning on the idea of MORE, M-O-R-E, message, organize, recruit, elect. So let me kind of break down what I mean by that. So the first is message. I think that for a lot of us, it's been a little hard to be a Republican recently. You get a little beat up by the press, you kind of get beat up sometimes by your neighbors, and you wonder, why is that? Why is that happening? I believe it's because for a long time we've let the political left define what it means to be a Republican, and let the political left define what we believe in. And so we're kind of in this identity crisis where we as Republicans know what we believe in, but other people have some misconceptions about that. I think it's time that we start taking our messaging into new areas. I think it's time that we start proactively working with the press. I think it's time that we start proactively engaging on social media, which is where people are spending time. I also think it's important that we start messaging to Republican voters, delegates, and elected officials more effectively and more efficiently. I ask people, when was the last time you heard and asked for feedback on something that was coming up through the Republican Party? A lot of times the answer is never, or maybe I missed it because they're in the same boat. The second one is organize. I've kind of coined the term in my campaign that the Utah Republican Party should be the chief executive organizer. We should be able to organize our people, we should be able to organize resources, and we should be able to organize our, what we do day to day. I think it's important. I think it's something we've kind of lacked on, and I think it's time to change it. Owning a business, you either have to be organized from the get-go, or you have to learn pretty quickly how to be organized, or else you fail. I feel like I bring that skill set to the party, and I hope to make a difference there. The next one is recruit. So I only caught the tail end of Cole and Lisa, and so I'll actually apologize for being late. I know we were coming from another thing, but it was probably a little bit of a disturbance to you guys when we were coming in. The Republican Party has a problem on their hands. I would call it kind of a potential crisis, because for a long time we have had a natural voting base, and it's existed for almost a couple generations at this point. And it's kind of got us to where we are, where we have more state legislative majorities, more Republican governors than ever before. The problem, like Cole mentioned, is that millennials aren't affiliating with the Republican Party. That doesn't mean they're not affiliating at all, or they're not affiliating with the Democratic Party. They're actually just not affiliating. I think that if we don't do the groundwork now in reaching out to those voters and showing them what it means to be a Republican, which to me means, number one, we believe in freedom, and number two, we believe in the unlimited potential of an individual. And we'll fight for your unlimited potential, because the government shouldn't be able to tell you that you can't do something or you can't succeed based off of your hard work and ideas. The last one is elect. As I've mentioned, I worked on campaigns all through college, and after that were kind of my bread and butter. It's what I love doing, and I have a fundamental understanding of what it takes to run a campaign and what resources you need from the party. So MORE, message, organize, recruit, elect. That's me. I'm Natalie Callahan, and thanks for having me.
Our next candidate is Joe.
Okay, I'm Joe Levi. I'm also running for vice chair of the state party. Now, one thing, a lot of you probably heard this from me, if you've heard me on the radio and whatnot, heard this. I'm not running against Don. I'm not running against Natalie. I'm not running against Joni. I'm running for this position. Now, I think that's important. We've seen how destructive we can be inside our party, how we're butting heads, tearing each other apart. I don't like that guy because, I don't like her because, and we start tearing each other down. When we're all on the same team, we all rally behind the same platform, we have the same values. I don't envy you your job. Your job that your neighbors elected you to do was to find out all of these people who are running for this position, find out who you think has the best skills, who has the best vision, and who's going to do what you think your neighbors want us to do. It's a hard decision you're going to have to make, and I'm not going to tear anybody down. You got to decide for yourself. So who am I? Why am I running? And yeah, I have more cards. And what do I want to do? What are my qualifications? My name is Joe Levi. I was reared in Layton. I moved out to Syracuse. I know urban and suburban life. Hate it. Had the opportunity to move back to where my mom grew up in Mendon, so I live in Cache Valley now with my family. I love it up there, but I still commute every day to Clearfield. I have a lot of time to listen to all kinds of audible books, great books. So I'm getting a further education there. That lets me have a unique perspective. I live out in the sticks and I love it. I know what goes on with the people in the rural counties. I know what goes on with the people in the urban counties. And I know that we have to have not a one-size-fits-all solution, because what works for Utah County is not going to work for Cache or Iron or Washington. So at the state party, we need to be more of a coordinating body than a controlling body. We need to put power back in the hands of the counties and the precincts, so that the voices of the delegates, your voices, are heard, are amplified, are effective. So you are not just elected to recommend candidates to the ballot. Now that's different than electing Republicans. I've gotten flack for saying this, and I'm going to say it boldly and proudly. I'm not interested in electing Republicans. Okay? I'm interested in giving the delegates the power and the tools that they need, the culture of communication that they need, so they can recommend people to the ballot who will run as Republicans and support, endorse, and defend our platform. Those two are very different things. I don't want somebody just because they have an R after their name. I want somebody who's going to go out and be passionate and defend our values. That's what I want. Are they going to be Republicans? You betcha. Am I accomplishing that same thing by having Republicans elected? Absolutely. But this method lets you, the delegates, be the people that you were elected to be. Your neighborhood representatives who keep those who made it to the ballot, who made it through the general election, representatives of people who sent them there. That's missing today. Delegates don't do that by and large. We've lost that somehow. Benjamin Franklin, when asked what kind of government, what kind of system had the founders given us, he replied, a republic, if you can keep it. A republic starts with the delegates, the elected delegates. That's the voice, that's the conduit. I have a background in technology. I used to work for an ad agency as their technology director. I'm the webmaster for the Utah GOP, for Cache County GOP, and previously for the Davis County Republican Party. I bridge the gap between millennials and our elders, our older people in the party. I'm Native American, so I have that there. I've got a lot more to say, but I'm Joe Levi. Get to know me. I'm running for vice chair.
So yeah,
And I have papers.
might as well stay up here, candidates, if you wouldn't mind joining us. We'll go through a Q&A period. And I think it's fair if a question is directed at a specific candidate. If another candidate has a response, we'll certainly give you a chance to respond. And timer, we're going to keep what, 1 minute? 1 minute?
Yeah, 1 minute for response.
And we'll see what the volume of questions are. And then what we'll do is we're going to start in the reverse order of the random selection of giving your speeches. And so we'll start with any questions from the floor. Yes, sir. Yeah.
We conservative Republicans are really busy folks. We're involved in our churches, our kids' lives, education, all kinds of positions. Many of us are just so time-strapped. How do you recruit the best and the brightest to become candidates then when they feel like they've already given their time as scoutmaster or as soccer coach?
Natalie, we're going to start with you.
Oh, okay. So first off, I think Utah is in a really unique position, right? Because you have a lot of amazing people. And you see that even on the county level. Like, I'd like to thank the county and the people that put this together today, because it's time consuming, right? It's an additional thing that you're doing outside of your normal day-to-day life. You as delegates are here in addition to your normal day-to-day life. And we have candidates that run all of the time that are doing it in addition to their normal day-to-day life. And I think that's kind of where you start, right? I think there's people that feel a need to serve their communities, and I think you have to kind of start reaching out to them. I think you start asking people, honestly, to be honest with you. Sometimes when people just get asked, they start thinking about it, and that makes the difference. And you know, it's not a big program, it's not a big recruitment program, it's just asking. It's asking them to do something outside of themselves that makes a difference. And I think there's a lot of good people that are willing to do that.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, so our founders saw that exact issue. They had all of these things that they had to do. They were business owners themselves, some small, some large. And the way that they addressed that was self-limiting term limits. You'd serve a term or two and then you'd return to the plow, as Washington said. But they also gave us a republic form of government where you have people who are people, not professional politicians, who run for office, who get elected by their neighbors and take that load off of the neighbors so their neighbors can do what they do, whether that's doctor, lawyer, policeman, fireman, farmer, tech guy. They can get around and do their thing while you take your turn representing them. And as we share the load and get people involved, those who are selected and elected to do that job can do it and let other people take care of it. We need to help the handoff of one person who did it and the next person who's been elected to take up the torch so that that's a smooth process and we don't lose the information between the two.
Thank you, Joe Don.
I think if we're talking about getting more volunteers in the party, I think one of the things we need to do is make sure we're being specific on what we're asking people to do. You know, sometimes we throw a big, huge load at someone and expect them to do it, when we need to be specific on what we ask them to do. So, for example, within the party, you know, you want to be responsible for passing out flyers today for this section of homes, or would you be willing to make X number of phone calls? That's what we need to do, is make sure we organize. In terms of, you know, because once again, we all have busy lives. We all, you know, coaches and all that. But once again, don't make people feel they have to bear the whole burden. Break apart, you know, light hands, you know, many hands make light work. I think we need to exercise that. And I think, once again, once we talk about getting for elected officials, I think that's why this SB 54 fight is so important. Because that, once again, that's going to allow more people to get involved. Because a lot of people don't have $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 to run a race right away. You'll be able to get more people involved with our caucus convention system. That's one of the great aspects of it.
Thank you. Any other questions from the floor? Big convention this Saturday. Let's get at it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, so now each of you has laid out a vision of what you would bring to the table as the vice chair and what you would want to do as vice chair. How do you see yourselves practically acting that out, knowing that the explicit duty of the vice chair is only to help the chair?
Great
And
question.
we're gonna start with Don.
Now, one advantage I have is I've actually worked with all three chair candidates. With Phil Wright in Davis County, I've served as his Constitution and Bylaw Chair and Rules Chair. Rob, I served as his Rules Chair, and James Evans, I've known James Evans for years from serving on the State Central Committee, and we've served together for the last 4 years on the Executive Committee. I'm willing to do what they asked, but I'm also someone who takes action. If you know, once again, with the bylaw change in Davis County, the chair didn't ask me to act. I took action. With the resolutions I sponsored, no one asked me to act. I took action. So if I see something that needs to be done, I'm willing to do it within the framework of the party. For example, I believe we need to promote our platform more. So if I'm not seeing our chair doing it, I'm happy to get on social media and put out links to our platform. I'm happy to go meet with people. So it's also, I can work with them, but I'm also someone who doesn't necessarily have to wait to be told something to do. I'm proactive and take charge, and I think my history in the party demonstrates that.
Thank you, Don. Joe?
That's a fantastic question, and the part that you pulled out of our bylaws is exactly what our bylaws tell us we have to do. The vice chair supports the chair. But we also operate under Robert's Rules of Order, and under Robert's, there are a lot more responsibilities for the vice chair. The most important of which I'll get to in just a second. So I've worked with all three chair candidates as well. I'm the webmaster for Utah GOP, so I work with James. I was the vice chair under Phil Wright when he was the chair in Davis County, and I was on the transition team when Rob Anderson won that election too. So one of the roles of vice chair is when the chair is unable to act, the vice chair is the chair. When Rob is in the air, he can't act. He can't get a phone call. He can't make decisions. You need to have someone who is going to say, when he gets in that cockpit, I am the chair of the party, I will handle it, I will do it, and make sure that that person is involved in the meeting so they know what the chair would have done in that place, or at least will have that foundational background of what that chair is supposed to do.
Thank you, Joe. Natalie?
Thank you for your question. I think specifically when you get into this, I think it's just about putting in the effort, truly. And I think that we have three chair candidates that would all welcome somebody that truly assists them, right? Because you become chair, and Linda could probably tell you this, it's a lot of work. I think being someone over an organization is a lot of work. I was the chair for the Utah College Republicans for 2 years. And the immense effort you put in it's a lot. And so it's nice to have a vice chair that, number one, kind of has your back, but also is looking for ways to improve. I believe that the chairs would be open to it, and I think part of it is coming up with the ideas and bringing them to the forefront, and that's what I plan to do.
Thank you, Natalie. Yes?
I'd like to know who each of you support as chair.
Natalie, you're first.
So I'm going to give you a really unpopular answer, and it's the answer I've given to people that every phone call that I've made that people ask me that question. I'm not publicly saying who I support for chair, and the reason is because whoever wins, to me, it doesn't matter. I don't want to have a preconceived issue with them. I just want to work hard. And that's what I'm running my campaign on, this idea that you should be able to put in hard work, and that's what I'm planning on doing. And so it's probably not the answer you wanted, but it's the answer I'm going to give, so thank you.
And Dawn.
No, I'm gonna give the political answer too. I'm friends with all the candidates too. And I tell people, I'll give you my opinions of the candidates and what they have.
Okay, well, what's your opinion of the candidate then? The candidates?
So-
Very briefly, very briefly.
You put words in my mouth here, but once again, Phil's probably more conservative, of the candidates. James has more probably experience at the state level, and he's been the chair. Rob, if you're against the lawsuit, Rob's come out, and said he doesn't support the lawsuit. So if, wherever you fall into those categories, that's why I'd recommend you support. Once again, I've worked with all of them. I consider them all friends. I have good relationships with each of them. And so whoever is elected chair, I'll be happy to work beside him and get to work for the business of the party.
Joe.
Okay, I'm not going to be politically correct. Okay? I know you. Just recognize you. Of all the people that I've talked to in this entire party across the entire state, there's only one person who has ever attacked me. There's only one person who has threatened to sue me. There is only one person who has defamed me in public. There is only one person of those 3 that are running that not only signed to count my vote petition and lied about it, but then also voted against us fighting for our rights, and that's Rob Anderson. Be very careful. Do your research when you look at him. James. I've worked with James as the webmaster. He's a nice guy. He has a different management technique than I think we need for the party. He's a party of one. He likes to do things all on his own. If he stumbles, the party stumbles. Phil involves people, lots of people. I think that's good for transparency. I think that's going to be good to involve a lot of people. And if I were voting right now today, it'd be for Phil.
Thank you, Joe. Any other questions from the floor? Okay, I have one. May I? We have a problem, or I think a potential opportunity in Weber County. We have 120,000 some odd registered voters, of which only 50,000 are Republican. Okay? 70,000 are independent and affiliated. Most of the time, depending on the candidate, they vote Republican. What in your thought process can we do as a party to address this issue, not specifically to Weber County, but to the state of Utah? And we will go with, Joe, you're up.
Fantastic, you to hear from me again. When I ask people what the party is, a lot of times, people say they're frustrated with the party. When I ask them who the party is, it's the president, or Congress, or the governor, or the legislature, or even the state party officers. That's wrong. Our founders set up us as the people. We are the seat of government, we are the voice of government, and to make sure our voices get heard, we affiliate in private organizations that we call parties. We, who voluntarily associate underneath the planks in our platform, we are the party. The people that you have that are unaffiliated don't know the strength of the values in our platform. It's our job to teach, to educate, to help them realize this is what it means to be a Republican, not somebody who's back east or even down at the Capitol who's not voting the way that they should or voting against our planks and our platform. It's the planks. We support the planks, we advertise the planks. It's those values that make us strong. That's how we get Republicans to come into the party.
Thank you, Joe. Natalie?
I love this question because I have experience in this, and so it's an easy one for me to answer. college Republicans in the state of Utah. I served as chair for 2 years, and we were on every college campus convincing people that were unaffiliated that they should be a Republican. It's a hard task, right? You have to convince them that they believe in Republican values and are willing to fight for them. Utah, one of kind of my proud moments of college Republicans is that we had a chapter on every campus and that we had the second highest number of delegates for the national committee, even though we're a small state. So I understand how difficult it is to get people to affiliate. And I talk about the principles, I talk about freedom, I talk about unlimited potential, then you ask them to act, and you ask them to get involved, and you ask them to change it from within. Because if they have a problem, the outside casting stones, that's not what changes it, it's by getting involved. And so that's what I think we need to do, and I want to help do that as a party.
Thank you, Dawn.
When I think of this question, I think of as a delegate I talked to in Morgan County who had been a member of the Constitution Party, but it just basically came back to the Republican Party. We need to see more of that in our party, because if you look at our platform, we're a natural home for members of the Constitution Party and Libertarian Party, because we share many of the same values. And you see how sometimes these people break off in some of these other ways. That affects elections. For example, the Mia Love election, her first election against Jim Matheson, she lost by a small percentage of the vote, but the Libertarian candidate won. So we need to go proactively reach out, and that's where promoting our platform comes in. Know what Republicans believe in, because all the time I hear about you Republicans or for raising taxes and for this. Well, some of our elected officials might do that, but that's not what the party stands for. That's not what our platform says. And true power comes by joining with us together and joining with us and exercising that political power that one can have when people join up with us. So that's what I would do, promote, proactively reach out to these people to bring more people into the party.
Okay, and I just have a quick follow-up, if I may, just very briefly. I don't think the problem that we suffer is that the party doesn't support the platform. The candidates don't. Okay,
Candidates
is
are
that
elected officials.
elected officials? I'm sorry, not candidates. Excuse me, elected officials.
Well, some of the candidates too.
Well, my point is, and we've haggled over this and that kind of thing. So I guess just one quick question, if the audience will allow, maybe just take a minute and respond to that. And we'll go with Dawn and work our way back.
You know, I share that concern. In 2008, I sponsored our bylaw change in Davis County, which we required candidates to state whether they support the platform or not. My hope is that people will vote, when they sign that name, people will look at their voting record and say, hey, you said you support the platform, but you voted for a tax increase, you voted for this, you violated the plan, and really empower the delegates. That was what I was hoping to ensure accountability. One thing I've also done, and I understand this, as chairman of Grassroots, I have published our legislative report card and written it since 2001. You can go to utahgrassroots.org to look at it. So I understand where people are coming from. But that's, once again, empowering people, letting people what we know, believe, and bringing more people into the party who accept and believe in our platform. Because the only way you're really going to be able to change elected officials and their voting record, if you want to, is by threatening them, voting them out of office. And you're only going to have that if you have power of delegates to do so.
Okay, thank you, Nana.
Of course, those things are true, right? As voters, you have to decide whether or not this person that you elected is representing you. That's important. I'll take a little bit of a sidestep here, and I think really what, as the party, we should serve as is the people that are just educating about what we believe in. If voters don't know kind of where something falls on the platform or where an issue is, how could they possibly hold someone accountable? I don't think that it's necessarily the job of the party to be the arbitrator of who's Republican enough or who's not Republican enough. That's up to the voters. And at the end of the day, I think we just need to do a better job communicating to them and messaging to them. Thanks.
Thank you, Nana. Joe?
So yeah, and I would go back to who the party is. The party's not the party officers or the party leadership. The party is the people. The first thing we need to do, a quick story, when I was in Cache County, my representative is Scott Sandel. He lives in Box Elder County, and he never replies to any of my emails or phone calls. Representative Red, he's at the south end of the valley, a little bit closer to me, but not my representative. I said, Representative Red, I emailed you this session. This is about 2 weeks after the session. You never wrote back to me. I'm not in your district, so I'm not going to hold it against you. And he said, yeah, Joe, you're right. He pulled out his iPhone and he showed me his unread email indicator on his iPhone. 18,900 emails 2 weeks after the session. He said, Joe, I gave up 2 weeks into the session. The way that we get those elected officials back responsible to the people is by making sure that the people that are contacting them are not special interest groups out of the state, but are the people who their neighbors elected to be their communications conduit, the delegates. That's what we do.
Thank you. Nobody wants to go home, do they? Yeah.
I'm here all night.
Any other questions from the floor? Yeah, we'll just wrap it up. Let's give each candidate 2 minutes. Is that fair, Linda? To speak directly to the delegates. And Joe, we're going to work in reverse order. We'll start with you.
That's fine with me. I want to recap what I said before. I'm not running against anybody. I have a unique skill set and a unique vision that is different than some of the other people that are running. A lot, we overlap. Your decision is not going to be easy, but you're picking between 4, because Nephi dropped out today from what I heard, 4 very qualified people. It's your job to look and see what your neighbors want to do and who you think is best going to run that level of the party. I don't want to tell counties what to do. I don't want to tell delegates what to do. I want to give them the tools. I want to give them the education. I want to give them the information that they can use if they want so that they can do their job better. The way we do that is through technology, but we do that in a manner that's not going to ostracize the older people in our
Hey, you're not pointing at me.
I'm not pointing at you, I'm pointing near you. So, I'm Native American and we
I thought it
have
would take a lot longer to get older. Sorry.
I got the gray hair. I'm Native American, we have a culture and tradition of what's called a tribal council, where we have our elders come in. Those elders have seen things that we haven't seen. They've seen things through different experiences than we've seen things. We bring them in and they, with their knowledge, their expertise, their experiences, they can help direct the passion, the energy, and sometimes even the anger of our warriors, of our youth, and temper that with experience. I'm the guy that bridges the gap between the two. We get our elders involved. We have the technology to talk to the warriors. We have them go out, do the job of promoting our platform. We get them off the Bernie Sanders camp, off the socialist bandwagon. We bring them back to the core values that made our country strong and can make it even stronger going forward. I'm the guy who can do that. That's why I'm running for vice chair, but I'm not going to be mad or sad if either of the other candidates win. I'll work with them just fine.
Thank you, Joe.
So first off, let me echo some of Joe's thoughts. I was talking to my sister just got home from an LDS mission, so I've been dragging her around with me to some of these things. And we were talking in the car as we were driving up about the other candidates. And truly, you know, the people that are running here, you don't get paid to be vice chair once you're elected, right? You put in volunteer hours, and even this campaign, it's exhausting, right? You make phone calls, you're on phone calls. I was on the phone till like 11:30 last night with delegates that were calling me back. And so I just wanted to thank you both for the work that you've put in and for your county leaders that put in work all the time. Let me just kind of emphasize my message. I feel like we're at a pivotal time in the Republican Party. By what we do now will determine what the future of the party looks like. And I think it's important that you're able to choose someone that has a vision of the future and has the resources to make that happen. And I feel that that's what I'm running on. That's what I'm about. And I hope to use those resources and my relationships with elected officials or press to make a positive impact on the party. I'm grateful to all of you for being here, and I hope to earn your vote for Saturday. And I'll just recap more: MORE, message, organizer, who elect. I think it's important. I think that I'm uniquely qualified to do it. So again, thank you so much for having us.
And I'd like to thank the Weber County Party once again and thank the candidates for being here. It's been good to get to know them in the process. John and I have known each other for a long time. So. But we have a saying at work when we're hiring people is prior performance predicts future behavior. And I would ask you, when you take a look at my past performance, predict what I'm going to be doing as vice chair. I have the track record. I have the track record of standing for our caucus convention system. Not only to fight Camp My Vote when it was just initiating, but also looking for solutions in case our legal case is not successful. To also take a look at what I've done with caucus in Davis County. I was one of the first to move. When I first went to a caucus meeting in Davis County, we went to small living rooms, and I couldn't even see people on the other side of my room. I moved our caucus meetings into neighborhood schools. I put them throughout my ledge district so people didn't have to drive to one central location to improve the caucus experience. The fact that I proactively looked to change the party rules because I recognized that our caucus night was going too long. So I changed the rules change for that. So take a look at that. Take a look at my experience for standing for grassroots of the party. I talked about my experience when I stood up for state delegates' rights back when I was first elected to the State Central Committee. The last meeting of the State Central Committee, I was still standing up for state delegates' rights because they were trying to make a thing where they could circumvent the state delegates. Once again, we keep having this discussion. I keep fighting on them. And thus far, we haven't quite as been successful as I like, but we at least stopped from some of the things they've done. So I've stood up for state delegates and then standing up for our principles. I've been the chairman of UtahGrassroots.org. I spend hours each year, volunteer hours. I don't get paid for it. Any money we have goes into flyers we pass out to people, the reports. Standing up for our principles. So once again, to summarize, you can trust me to stand up for our caucus, to stand up for you, and to stand up for our principles. I appreciate your vote on Saturday.